Let me ask you something, friends. If you gave your life, your money, your energy, your health for your children, would you expect a little love back in your old age? A phone call? A visit? Maybe even just a thank you. Dad? Well, what if I told you my kids gave me something else instead? They gave me silence, cold shoulders, and finally, the words that shattered me. You're not our responsibility anymore. Yeah, that's what my own flesh and blood said to me. After 72 years of walking this earth, I thought my family was my anchor. Turns out they were the storm. But don't you worry, I'm not here to cry on your shoulder. I'm here to tell you how I had the final word. And trust me, it wasn't with shouting. It wasn't with fists. It wasn't even with anger. It was with something much more powerful. Something they never saw coming. So lean in, grab your coffee or maybe a glass of wine. Because once you hear how I turned their betrayal into my sweetest revenge, you'll be asking yourself, if I were in Henry's shoes, would I have done the same thing? Stick around till the end. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button, share the story, and subscribe. Because this is one story you'll want to remember. Before I tell you how my kids betrayed me, let me tell you who I was before all this. I wasn't always just old Henry. I built houses with my bare hands. I was a carpenter for 40 years. My wife, Martha, she used to joke, "Henry, you've built half this town, but can't even fix that squeaky cabinet in our kitchen." We laughed a lot back then. Martha was my anchor. When cancer took her 10 years ago, it felt like someone cut the strings holding me up. But I had my kids. Matthew, the lawyer. Denise, the nurse. Jason, the dreamer who couldn't keep a job but always had big ideas. I paid for Matthew's law school, took extra shifts just to cover tuition. I sold a plot of land so Denise could buy her first house. Jason got bailed out more times than I can count. Credit cards, bad investments, car accidents. But that's what dads do, right? You sacrifice, you give, you tell yourself, one day they'll appreciate it. I thought I had raised them to value family, to value me. I was wrong. Tell me, do you think kids owe their parents care in old age? Or is it every man for himself once you hit retirement? Drop it in the comments because this is where my story takes a dark turn. Started small, missed calls, forgotten birthdays, excuses like, "Matthew, sorry dad, work's crazy." Denise, "The kids had soccer, we'll come by next weekend." Jason, "My phone died, I'll call you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. One night, I was at Denise's, babysitting my grandkids. She was in the kitchen on the phone. She thought I couldn't hear, but I've still got sharp ears. Denise whispering, "I can't keep doing this. Dad's always needing something." Matthew said maybe it's time we, talk about a home, or just step back. A home? Step back? I raised her, held her when she broke her arm falling off her bike, stayed up nights during her nursing exams. And now I was too much? I stayed quiet, but something inside me cracked that night. Then came the night at Matthew's house. He invited me to dinner, rare. I wore my best shirt, the one Martha always liked. I thought maybe, just maybe, they were planning a surprise. Maybe I'd been wrong. But the moment I walked in, I knew. Their faces were stone. We ate in silence. Then Matthew put down his fork. "Matthew, Dad, we need to talk." Me, "What's going on?" Denise, "It's about your future." Jason, "We think it's time you live more independently." Me, "Independent? I already live alone." Matthew, coldly, "We don't want to be responsible for you anymore." I swear the room spun. Me, responsible? I raised you. I paid for your schools, your houses. And now I'm a burden. Jason, "You're not our problem anymore." That was it. My own blood, my own children, disowning me like some stranger. When I left, Matthew's final words cut deep. "Matthew, don't call us, Dad. We'll call you if we need to." Tell me, friends, how would you feel if your own kids said that? When I left Matthew's house that night, the cold outside bit through my jacket, but it was nothing compared to the chill in my chest. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. The streetlights blurred through my tears. Me, Henry Carter, a man who once built a reputation in this town with his hands, reduced to nothing more than too much responsibility for his own children. The silence of my house when I got home was unbearable. The walls echoed with Martha's laughter, but it was only in my head. On the mantel, her photo seemed to look at me with both pity and strength. I whispered to her frame, "Me to Martha's photo, did we fail them, Martha? Did I raise them wrong? Or did they just change?" Days turned into weeks. My phone never rang. Not from them anyway. The only people who called were my neighbors. Earl, my lawyer friend, checking in, and Marianne, the sweet widow down the street, bringing me pies because she made too much again. Imagine that, strangers offering me care, while my own children stayed silent. That's when Martha's old words came back to me. "Henry, don't let anyone else write the last chapter of your story. That's yours to write." And right then, something hardened in me. I wasn't going to die a forgotten old man. I wasn't going to let my kids erase me from their lives like some erased chalkboard. No, if they wanted me gone, I'd make sure they remembered me forever. That night, I called Earl. He came over the next day, briefcase in hand, glasses slipping down his nose. He listened to everything, every detail of how they disowned me. "Earl, Henry, I've been your friend for decades. Are you sure about this? Changing everything? Me?" They cut me off, Earl. They told me I'm not their responsibility. Well, guess what? They're not mine either. Earl, nodding slowly. "Then let's do this the right way." We drafted new documents. My will, my estate, my house, savings, investments, everything. And not one dime, not one nail, not one piece of land would go to my children. Instead, it would go to people who mattered. Scholarships for underprivileged kids. Funding for the community center. Help for families who actually valued family. But Earl looked at me carefully. "Earl, Henry, do you want them to find out after you're gone? Or do you want them to know now?" I leaned back, thought of their cold stares, their words cutting through me like knives. Me with a bitter smile, "Oh, Earl, they'll know now, they'll feel it, and they'll never forget it." Once the papers were signed, the stage was set. But revenge isn't just about paperwork, it's about delivery. I decided to mirror them. They had invited me to dinner only to cut me off. So I would invite them to dinner only to cut them off. For weeks I prepared, not just food, but the performance. Because let's be honest, this wasn't just dinner, it was theater. And I was going to be the star. I polished Martha's old dining table, laid out her china, the good dishes we only used on Christmas. I set the table for 4. Their seats were labeled with little cards, neat handwriting. Matthew, Denise, Jason.
Maria read each one aloud to Eleanor. "Thomas, I was wrong. I let greed blind me. I miss Dad. I miss you. Benjamin, I'm broke and it's all my fault. I don't want money. I want a hug. Rachel, you hurt me, but I hurt you first. I want to come home." Eleanor was torn. Maria simply said, "Follow your heart, not your wounds." Eleanor agreed to meet them on her terms. No lawyers. No accusations. Just a Sunday dinner. They arrived tense and quiet, unsure if they'd be let in. Maria opened the door with a warm smile. The dining table was set, just like old times. Roast beef. Mashed potatoes. Fresh bread. Rachel cried at the sight. Thomas pulled out Eleanor's chair. Benjamin brought flowers. They ate in silence. Then Eleanor spoke. "You broke my heart. But I won't let bitterness be my legacy. You are welcome, as guests. Maria is my daughter, and this home is hers." The message was clear. Love was still on the table. Entitlement was not. Born in a small village outside Oaxaca, Maria was the youngest of 7. Her mother died when she was 6, and by age 10, she was working odd jobs to support her family. At 18, she crossed the border, terrified, undocumented, but determined. She worked factory jobs, cleaned hotels, and eventually landed a job with the Whitmores. Gerald respected her work ethic. Eleanor loved her spirit. Over time, she became more than an employee. She became family. But she never forgot her roots. Every month, she sent money back home. Every night, she prayed for the mother she barely remembered. Word of Eleanor's story spread. A local news channel asked for an interview. Reluctantly, Eleanor agreed. The reporter asked, "Do you regret giving everything to someone who isn't your blood?" Eleanor smiled. "Love isn't in the blood. It's in the acts." Maria stayed. "My kids fled. That's all the proof I need." The interview went viral. Comments poured in. "Eleanor is a hero. This made me cry. I want to be like her at 78. Others weren't so kind. How dare she betray her kids? Gold digger alert. But Eleanor didn't care. She'd said her truth. Over time, Rachel began visiting more. Not to plead or manipulate, but to help. She offered to assist Maria with managing the estate's paperwork. Maria hesitated, but Eleanor encouraged it. Let her earn your trust. Thomas took up gardening with Eleanor. He spent afternoons planting lilies and pulling weeds, silent therapy for both. Benjamin volunteered at a senior center, inspired by Eleanor's strength. He finally found purpose beyond wealth. The family wasn't whole again, but it was healing. On Eleanor's 80th birthday, Maria threw a garden party. The community came. Pastors, neighbors, even Eleanor's old bridge club. There were speeches, cake, music. Rachel took the MIC. 2 years ago, I tried to erase my mother. Today, I want to honor her. Not because she forgave us, but because she taught us what love really looks like. Eleanor cried. Maria hugged her. The family, in its new form, stood together. One evening, Maria sat beside Eleanor, who had grown frail. When you're gone, I'll take care of this house. I'll teach my children everything you taught me. I will never let them forget you. Eleanor squeezed her hand. You already are everything I hoped a daughter would be. Eleanor passed peacefully in her sleep, a smile on her lips. Her funeral was packed. Not just by family, but by lives she had touched. Maria spoke. She gave me a job, then a home, then a name. I will carry it with pride. Rachel cried beside her. Thomas read a poem. Benjamin played Eleanor's favorite song on the piano. Years later, Maria established the Eleanor Whitmore Foundation, a non-profit to support elderly women abandoned by family. The mansion became a halfway home, the garden a place of healing. Maria's children grew up to be doctors, artists, and teachers, all inspired by one woman who chose love over blood. And every Sunday, the family, new and old, still gathered around Eleanor's table. Not because they had to, but because they finally understood what family really meant. Sometimes, family betrays us. Sometimes, strangers save us. Eleanor Whitmore didn't just rewrite her will. She rewrote her story. Would you have done the same? Tell us in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that prove the heart remembers what the blood forgets.
When the ink dried and the court's decision was final, I thought I'd feel an overwhelming rush of triumph. You know, like in those old cowboy movies where the outlaw gets run out of town and the good man stands tall. But life isn't a movie. It's quieter, slower, and often lonelier. The day after my children's lawsuit against me crumbled in the courtroom, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, birds sang. But inside, there was this strange silence. Not the peaceful kind, no. This was the kind of silence that comes after a storm, when the trees are bent, the ground soaked, and you're left staring at the wreckage. I poured myself a cup of coffee and let it go cold. I couldn't stop replaying my kids' faces in court. The anger, the entitlement, the betrayal. Blood of my blood, but strangers all the same. And that's when it hit me. Sometimes, family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by loyalty, kindness, and who stands beside you when the world turns its back. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Earl, my old army buddy, standing there with 2 bags of groceries. "Don't give me that look," he grumbled, pushing past me. "A man can't live on instant noodles and black coffee. You'll waste away before the year's done." I chuckled, despite myself. "Earl, I can cook." "Yeah, sure. Burnt toast counts, I guess. He started unloading vegetables and meat like he owned the place. As he clattered around my kitchen, I realized Earl wasn't here out of pity. He was here because he cared. Because real friends don't need a reason to show up. That evening, Marianne from across the street brought over a casserole. "Thought you could use a warm meal," she said, smiling gently. Before long, word spread around town. Neighbors came by to check on me. Some offered meals, others invited me to church events, poker nights, even just walks around the park. I hadn't realized it before, but I had a true family right there all along. One Saturday, Marianne convinced me to attend the community center's potluck. At first, I resisted. I thought people would whisper, judge me for what happened with my kids. But when I walked in, I wasn't met with whispers. I was met with hugs, handshakes, and nods of respect. "Good for you, standing up for yourself," one man told me. "You did the right thing," said another. "My own kids tried to pull the same thing," a woman confided. "I wish I had your courage." It dawned on me that my story wasn't unique. Too many seniors get taken advantage of by the very children they sacrificed everything for. And when I stood my ground, others saw hope. My pain became proof that we don't have to accept being discarded, manipulated, or robbed of dignity. That night, as I shared food and laughter with neighbors, I felt lighter. My so-called blood family had turned their backs on me. But this community, they'd embraced me. Of course, karma has its way. Weeks later, I got a phone call. It was my son. His voice was tight, like he was holding back anger or maybe shame. "Dad, we need to talk." I stayed quiet, let him sweat. He continued, "Look, I know things got ugly, but we didn't mean for it to go that far. Maybe we could come over, start fresh." Now, I'm not a cruel man. I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in accountability. So I told him plainly, "You and your sister made your choice. You showed me where I stood in your eyes, just a bank account to drain. Family isn't about blood. It's about love and respect. Until you understand that, my door stays closed." There was silence on the other end, then a frustrated sigh, then click. Did it hurt? Yes, of course. No parent dreams of cutting ties with their children, but sometimes holding on hurts worse than letting go. With my children out of the picture, I thought long and hard about my legacy. Who would inherit what I'd built? Who deserved it? I revised my will not out of spite, but out of clarity. Earl, who'd stood by me since the army, got my vintage truck. Marianne, who treated me like family when my own abandoned me, got a sum that would help her grandchildren through college. The community center, which gave me belonging, got the bulk of my estate to fund programs for seniors and kids alike. As for my children, nothing, not a cent. Some might say that was harsh, but I say it was fair. They disowned me first, I just finished the job. I sometimes think about posting my story online. Maybe on Reddit, those am I the A*** hole? Forums. I can see the headline now. AITA for cutting my children out of my will after they tried to sue me for my house? I imagine the comments. Not the a-hole. They sound entitled. Good for you, old man. Respect is earned, not demanded. Your kids disowned themselves the moment they took you to court. And maybe, just maybe, my story would help another senior realize they're not alone. These days, I sit on my porch in the evenings, a glass of sweet tea in hand, watching the sunset. Earl sometimes joins me, grumbling about the price of gas. Marian drops by with her grandkids, who run circles around my yard and fill the air with laughter. I may not have the family I thought I wanted, but I have the family I needed. And isn't that what truly matters? So, was I the bad guy? No. I was a father who loved too much, trusted too much, and finally learned the hardest lesson of all. Blood doesn't always equal loyalty. And if my children ever find themselves wondering why they were left out of my final word, all they have to do is look back at their own actions. Because in the end, I didn't disown them. They disowned me, and I simply had the final word. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Do you think I made the right choice? Or should I have forgiven my kids? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one. Because sometimes, the hardest battles aren't fought in courtrooms or battlefields, but within our own families.